Hello, how are you? Welcome. Here's Dr. Sera Lavelle with us. She's a clinical psychologist, entrepreneur, co founder of Be a Better Eating. This is an innovative AI powered platform that is designed to help you with how you relate to food, transforming this relationship throughout some evidence based psychological techniques that help to connect and give real-time emotional support. Having said that, I want to pass the microphone over to you, Sarah, to explain us more about your background, what brought you to this place, and how you came up with the idea of this innovative platform that helps others work through their diet and how they approach their eating.
Mhm. Yeah, that sounds great. So a little bit of background about me. I'm a clinical psychologist. I own two different therapy practices in New York City. And the reason I came up with BIA, it's everybody talks about this aha moment as if it's one, but it's a number of different things. My main thing is I've been working with eating disorders for so long, but what I started to notice was a trend, but also kind of the lens at which I see things, right? So eating is psychological. I don't know anybody who's grabbing a bag of donuts on their way home from work when they're stressed who thinks it's a health food, right? And we're kind of throwing nutritional advice onto people, like and more and more and more and more. And if that was the problem, we'd already have a solution. It's not. A lot of times people are going to these foods when they're stressed. And I'm not saying people should ever eat donuts, but a lot of us have this time period that we're like, you know what, this is going to make me feel good and I'm going to be bad, right? And we have all these great techniques for people in therapy who have bulimia or binge eating disorder. But short of that, people can't get help. Unless you're clinically diagnosable, you can't get therapy for eating issues. So a few years ago, people just started flocking to therapy. And yet 43% of people are turned away because they're not sick enough. So who's there to help that person who barely eats during the day and yet binges at night, but it's not severe enough to meet the threshold for an eating disorder? If their problem isn't weight loss, they might be a perfectly normal, healthy weight, but they still have a problem and it's stressful. So I created this app for those people who know how to eat, but then break down and do the opposite. And that's not a small amount of people. It's estimated that 60% of people have some kind of disordered or emotional or stress eating issue. And yet, we're not able to solve this for the vast majority, only the 2 to 3% of people that have eating disorders within any given time. So, what I want to do is I want to make therapy tools accessible for anybody who's struggling. Because if these techniques work for binge eating disorder and bulimia, they certainly work for everyday stress eating. And why aren't we making these available?
Thank you. Thanks for elaborating on that. And would it be accurate to say that sometimes why we eat matter more than what we eat?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I'm definitely a person who doesn't believe that there's good food and bad food. But we know whether it's like, hey, I'm feeling good and I want to celebrate and I want to treat myself to something and it feels positive versus, oh, today I've had a bad day and I don't care. I just want to be bad. And it feels like this kind of like compulsion, this itch that we're going to do this thing almost because we know it's bad for us, not because it's, hey, we just feel like celebrating, or not because we're like, hey, this will taste good, right? And when we do that for those secondary reasons, we end up feeling really guilty and we feel badly about ourselves and we hate ourselves for doing it. Right? So I never want to stop a person from eating ice cream. What I want to do is stop a person from eating ice cream to self-sabotage. Does that make any sense?
Yes, I think that example is great, obviously,
Mhm.
right?
Thank
So,
you.
so totally, it's part of your app helps address these behaviors and
Mhm.
identify, right, when we're eating probably just for the sake of fulfilling a emotional thing going on with ourselves rather than being hungry, let's say. So probably just to deep dive more into the tool you have in place to understand it better. I know you have a free trial. There's a quiz, which is great because at least it helps guide you through what is required, where you're at, and some blog content in your website, which is amazing, right? Because it helps to guide you and to create that consciousness. Maybe sometimes we're not as conscious about what we're doing. We have a life that has it's rush, 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 and sometimes it's like, okay, my as you say, my day's not going well. I'll just maybe just fill in this gap or how I'm feeling. Everything was challenging today. I'll go and have this ice cream to make me feel just better overall.
Exactly. Mhm.
Perfect. So regarding probably with the method you're using or the approach you take through the app, is it I go and I get started, fill my profile, and based on certain questions, I'll be um, like guided to an approach or what to do. How does it work?
Yeah, it's not just the onboarding, right? Like at the current moment, and we might have more onboarding specifically later, but right now, if you think about it, if you start a session with a therapist, they're not really onboarding you. You kind of start talking and they guide you. And that's how Bia is. You open it, and she does start out by just asking, what is your biggest struggle with food? Is it your food thoughts? Is it your motivation? Is it emotional eating? Is it stress eating? Like, and from there, she guides you, and she'd be able to tell in the moment as you're talking, hey, it sounds like you're having a hard time telling if you're stressed or actually just hungry. Let's walk through a psychological exercise to help you figure out. Or it could be like, wow, you're feeling very overwhelmed right now. And you just said, hey, I want to eat a whole box of donuts. And she says, okay, well, let's take a minute. Why don't we do a mindfulness exercise right now? And then we'll kind of rate how you feel before you do it and after and see if that helped. If not, we'll move to something else, right? Or she might go through something to say, hey, well, what do you think you'd walk away feeling happier about if you kind of had one small donut or if you just chose something else? Okay, well, you want to choose something else. Okay, well, what's going to scratch that itch? Sounds like you wanted something sweet. What about strawberries? Okay, you don't like strawberries. And, she just works to be interactive. It's almost like having like kind of a psychological eating coach with you available anytime that's going to help you unravel these things. So really it's designed to kind of help you in the moment when you're struggling, but over time, it retrains your mind entirely to start craving healthier foods and to not react to emotional cravings.
That's amazing. A couple of things that I think they're worth to highlight. As you
Mhm.
mentioned, they are along the way with you at any moment, point in time or given time. And that's great because, as we know, in certain moments in life, for this specific case, like when you have that craving or that anxiety and you're like just leaning into eating, that's really important to know. Like you have someone, in this case, if there's an app that will support you, because sometimes it might happen, I don't know, maybe even at midnight there will be someone that's stressed, anxious, and it's like, okay, let me go grab a bite and figure it out and relax. Maybe there's someone that can be approaching this specific way of feeling and eating, and there's not a lot of support you might have at different times throughout the day, so that's amazing.
Mhm.
The other thing that it's worth probably calling out, and I found it somewhere through the website, is just like we do, or we're trying to do that more often. I find since COVID, is being present, being mindful. So this is like the mindful eating portion, right? So it's
Yep.
just working on different areas within our life that help us get into a balance and create an overall sense of wellness.
Mhm.
So that's good. Yeah, I'll let you speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Mindful eating techniques are woven throughout it, right? And not just in terms of like, hey, you're going to use mindfulness to, just relax more, but in terms of being present in the moment when you're eating, right? If you look at people who naturally eat well, they tend to not count calories. You'll listen to their language. You'll ask them, oh, well, why did you stop eating? Well, I was full, right? A person who's dieting, you ask them, well, why did you stop eating? They'll say, well, I already had my calories for the day. And that's what mindful eating techniques teach you is, things like a hunger scale, right? Getting used to, hey, what does comfortably full feel like in my body? Because sometimes people are walking around too hungry, and sometimes people are walking around getting the point that they're uncomfortably full. And it kind of retrains you to think in terms of like, hey, what does comfortably full feel like? And how can I make sure that I maintain that level of fullness without ever trying to get to like the gas tank being on total empty or feeling so overfull that we're uncomfortable?
That's great. And obviously, the other thing that is worthwhile talking about or highlighting is the platform or the tool itself has been designed, created by clinical psychologists, right? Like this is science
Mhm.
backed. So that's really important as well to know. Like it's around the clock, it's available, but it has this supporting piece of
Mhm.
it's not just maybe something that came and was together by a programmer or someone that is just playing with technology out there. Or like right now, we have lots of AI around, and I'm not saying like that cannot be done, but obviously having this support in place, your professional career, all the things that you've learned through time make it so much different, and probably it's easier to know it's going to be accurate, it's going to give me the right advice, and I can trust it.
Yeah. Well, if you think about how any LLM is created, right? They're really an amalgamation of all the information out there. Well, all the information out there is saying that it's all diet and nutrition, right? So that's why if you were to ask ChatGPT, how can I have a better diet? They would give you diet advice. If you'd ask Bia, how could I have a better diet? She'd ask you, hey, what are the psychological reasons that are holding you back? She could ask, like, is it that you don't, that you actually need help deciding like what's an appropriate diet for you? However, studies have shown that when given, like, do you think your diet would be improved by more nutritional information, or do you think your diet would be better improved by psychological support? The VAT only 10% of people that are struggling with their weight actually say that getting more nutrition advice would be helpful. And yet that's all we do is give them more and more nutrition advice, right? Whereas I think up to 80% of people who are overweight or obese attribute it to stress or emotional eating, right? Mhm. And another thing is a new study came out that actually showed that GLP-1s, yes, it is effective for emotional eaters. However, emotional eaters are the subgroup that gain the weight back after they stop GLP-1s, right? Because if you're using it for stress and comfort, you go on a GLP-1, it cuts off your hunger for a while, but then you get off of it, you're still going to use food for stress and comfort.
Yes, and that total goes in alignment with that component that our brain is so powerful. So if we don't have control about our emotions, the decisions we take, and obviously building those habits, right? Once you get into probably being conscious, getting that support, and sometimes if you maybe if someone that is near you or from your inner circle tells you something, there might be a bit of this wait, this is my life, I'm the one in control, or you might not take it the best way possible. Rather, if you're taking it from an expert, from this tool, let's say, that will be giving you an advice that is tailored to your needs. And then it's like for me, when I take my kids to the doctor, it's easier to get across the point, like choosing, maybe they obviously love sweets, but taking
Mhm.
the right choice. If you choose pop versus a milkshake, maybe there will be better nutrients on a milkshake, right? So it's the same thing, maybe having this tool in place to give the proper advice from like a knowledgeable source,
Mhm.
and not someone that might have other interests, also would make a really great example of why it's good, and will help build these habits and other support
Mhm.
all the time to maybe push ourselves to create these um, consciousness of making the decisions, being mindful when eating, and not just giving up into, okay, I'll go and stop at McDonald's because I'm really just in
Mhm.
need to go through these 2 minutes of stress and forget about it, right?
Yeah. Well, also, like we put a lot of motivational interviewing within the app. So Motivational interviewing is getting you curious about your own resistances. So it's not just about, a doctor kind of giving you better advice. So for instance, there's something called the forbidden fruit effect. And it's actually kind of stating that the more even doctors say it, the more you rebel against it. So for instance, I always give people this example. It's not uncommon for a person who has like a liver or a kidney transplant who've never had grapefruit juice in their entire lives or never liked it to suddenly crave grapefruit juice when they're told they're no longer allowed to have it because of their medications. So, think about it. You've had a liver transplant, a kidney transplant. Their doctor is actually telling you that your medications might be ineffective and could actually reject your transplant if you have something like grapefruit juice. I'm being extreme, but it's, kind of like just to the point. All of a sudden they start hyper craving grapefruit juice, right? And the thing is, the doctor could say all they want. However, it's like, they're like, I've talked to people about it. Sometimes it's the guilt, feeling like they don't deserve a second chance and almost a compulsion to do the opposite, and so giving that advice, but look how bad this is for you, isn't going to really help, right? Bia wouldn't sit there and say, don't drink grapefruit juice. What Bia might say is, I'm kind of curious. You already told me that you never craved it before. What do you think's going on? Right? And get you to start thinking about it, like removing those barriers, right? A lot of forms of therapy will help you reach your goals if you're already ready to do it. Bia helps you get ready for it. And what I mean by that is that form of therapy technique, the motivational interviewing, gets you ready to change, doesn't just help you change once you're already ready.
Perfect. Okay, so that's a good thing to note and
Mhm.
important to understand that of how it works and what is the overall objective. So thank you for
Yeah.
clarifying on that. And regarding on how like the approach is and any weights right now, I know you have it in place. Is there any specific type of features or things that you might be expanding into, or right now how is it working for you? Just wondering if there's specific things that might call anyone in listening to us, like maybe this type of feature might relate to myself, or where am I at on my journey. And the other thing will be just to highlight if they like you have the trial, which might be great to know to how it works and get used to it, or find out all about it. I think it's 14 days if I'm not mistaken, but I'll let you speak to both questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So right now it's a 7-day free trial. And that's enough to get people's feet wet. But also the cost to upgrade to the full is only $4.99 right now because it is a beta, right? This is our first launch. We have a lot of things and I can't wait to get the rest out. Um, you know, I'm the psychology behind it, but my co-founder is just amazing. And she's building in gamification. She's building in tracking. We're building out social components. We're also going to be building out a wellness and therapy network to align with it. So for instance, right now we're within wellness. What I mean by that is it's not made for those 2 to 3% of people that have eating disorders, right? Because we're saying, this app isn't going to be enough. And as a psychologist, those things matter to me. I don't believe in just throwing out any AI therapy app and saying it can cure everything. Right now, this is within wellness, meaning it's for those people who are struggling but might not meet the criteria for things like binge eating disorder, bulimia, or anorexia. So we refer out to that. In the future, we're going to have a triage model where you do get more of an assessment. And if you meet the criteria, we actually plan on being insurance reimbursable and pairing you with a therapist. If you're within wellness, what we're going to do is we would then have kind of you could upgrade to like one-on-one coaching and being part of group meetings and things along those lines. So there's a lot more. This is going to be a lot more interactive. The main thing is we want this to be the go-to for real psychological support for anybody who's struggling with food. Because all that's really out there right now are calorie counting apps. And a lot of people don't feel like that's going to help them. Of course, some people will, absolutely. But it has a 97%, as high as a 97% drop off. people can't track forever. And a lot of times it doesn't really solve the underlying issues the way that really getting to the heart of it does.
Great. And I find in the last maybe couple years that approach of just counting calories and that's it is changing. So it
Mhm.
goes in alignment with what you're saying and getting more into that psychological piece or component when we're eating. We need to fulfill certain nutritional requirements, but it's mostly more on like macros and so on rather than just the calories per se.
Yeah.
But yes, that component is also key for the eating and why we're eating, not what, but why, right?
Mhm. Absolutely.
Amazing. So from the key things that we have highlighted today, what would be the piece of advice that you will give anyone in the audience to probably rewire themselves or even think about maybe there's someone that has never thought, okay, I just go and eat because going through these emotions and I'm trying just to replace it or numb myself, and through food is what I'm doing.
I think the advice I always want to tell people is, for me, this isn't just an app. This is creating a movement of awareness. The biggest thing I want people to realize is that you're not alone. I can't tell you how many people get into my office and say, "Hey, I think I'm different than everybody else. I already know what to eat. I just break down and I feel like I lose control and I can't control it." Then the next person comes in and it's like, I think I'm different. It's not that I don't know nutrition. And when it's 60% of people struggle, uh, that's really not like a disorder, or it's not an individual problem. We have a societal problem, right? We have so much stress. We have so much information. We're like comparing ourselves on social media. We have stress to be thin, but then we don't have so many outlets. I think we have an entirely disordered society around food. And what I want people to know more than anything is, if you're struggling in silence, you don't have to talk to people. You can download Bia, but I recommend people open up to their friends, and like it can create more of a community around it so that people don't feel like they're the only person that has this issue and that there's something wrong with them for thinking like this. It's just way more common than people think.
Thank you. That's a great piece of advice. And the other thing that comes to my mind is when you open to, it's hard sometimes to find, okay, I'm gonna
Mhm.
tell what I'm going through, how I feel. Sometimes we are ashamed, but once you let it out and tell to others that are close to you about what's happening, how you're feeling, or how you're behaving, it creates this sense of relief and you can take some action into it. I find that also creates this channel to put hands on and feel certain sense of relief just by doing what you mentioned.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sarah. So we'll be sharing below all the links to the app, your socials, and to follow you for the latest updates, and obviously to try the app, to make a change, and to bring this psychological approach on how we're eating, just being conscious, mindful, and just switching the gears as well. And not, this is not a diet app, you're not tracking calories. So that's a really good thing or point to get across as well for the audience.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it and all the best.
Best. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.